I do want to ask you about USAID and the comments that Bill Gates made the other day.
Who does Bill Gates think he is to make comments about the welfare of children, given that he frequented Jeffrey Epstein?
Okay, well,
I'd like him to show us any evidence whatsoever that that is true. It's false. What we found with USAID cuts, and by the way, they haven't all been cut. The parts of USAID that were found to be even slightly useful were transferred to the State Department. So they've not been deleted. They've simply been transferred to the State Department. But many times over with USAID and other organizations, when they said, oh, well, this is going to help, children, or it's going to help some disease eradication or something like that. And then when we ask for any evidence whatsoever, I say, please connect us with this group of children so we can talk to them and understand more about their issue. We get nothing. They don't even try to come up with a show orphan, meaning like, can we at least see a few kids? Where are they? If they're in trouble, we'd like to talk to them and talk to their caregivers.
Okay, well,
and then we get nothing as a response, because what we find is an enormous amount of fraud and graft. Little of it actually gets to the kids, if anything at all. The program, the AIDS medication program, is continuing. So your fundamental premise is wrong. It is continuing. Do you have another example?
Not in its entirety.
That is false.
Not in its entirety. False. There's a limited waiver, and UNAIDS have said that not all of the services that were previously funded by USAID are continuing. So that's why I put that example to you.
Okay, well, which ones aren't being funded?
Okay, well, actually, they're all on the UNAIDS website, so you'll be able to see them. Mostly they are to do with prevention, and for example, the rollout of a drug called lenacapavir, which was hailed as one of the biggest breakthroughs against AIDS for many years, which came out last year. So if you are, perhaps, I'm sure UNAIDS would be delighted if you're able to look at that again.
Yes, if in fact this is true, which I doubt it is, then we'll fix it.
Okay, fine. Your political influence. I wondered whether you have decided yet how much you're going to spend on the upcoming midterms. You spent a lot more money on the last US election than you envisaged when you were speaking here 3 years ago. Are you going to continue to spend at that kind of level on future elections?
I think in terms of political spending, I'm going to do a lot less in the future.
And why is that?
I think I've done enough.
Is it because of blowback?
Well, if I see a reason to do political spending in the future, I will do it. I do not currently see a reason.
Okay. What about political influence beyond the US? How often do you speak to President Putin?
I don't speak to President Putin.
You've never spoken to President Putin?
I was on a video call with him once about 5 years ago.
Okay. That's the only
Why would you think
time.
I speak to President Putin? Oh, you must. Oh, I get it.
Because
you
I've
believe
heard
the
you
legacy.
speak. Actually, I've heard you speak about it. For example, in your West Point speech, you said, "Oh, I challenged President Putin to was it an arm wrestle?" And I know the Wall Street Journal has reported your conversations.
Oh, yes.
If you're saying they haven't happened other than once, I'll take that as read.
Is there a worse publication on the face of the earth than the Wall Street Journal? I wouldn't use that to line up my cage for paratroopings. That newspaper is the worst newspaper in the world. And if there's one newspaper that should be pro-capitalist, it's the one with Wall Street in the name. But it isn't. So I have the very lowest opinion of the Wall Street Journal. Absolute nonsense. And you clearly believe the tripe that you've read in those papers.
I read very widely, and I'm putting these questions to you so that you have an opportunity to respond to them, which you are, and for which we're all grateful to hear your responses. You are in this unique and unprecedented position of having billions of dollars worth of contracts with the federal government yourself, mostly through SpaceX, and also now an insider's knowledge of it because of Doge. Can you see that there is a conflict of interest, or a potential conflict of interest in broad terms, just through that very fact?
There have been many advisors throughout history and the US government and others who have had economic interests. And I am simply an advisor. I don't have formal power. The president can choose to accept my advice or not. And that's how it goes. If there's a single contract that any of my companies have received that people think it was awarded improperly, it would immediately be front page news, to say the least. And if I didn't mention it, certainly my competitors would. So if you're not seeing that, then clearly there's not a conflict of interest.
There's another way, though, to look at it, that, for example, You have many competitors, whether it's companies like Boeing or companies who would like to do more of the kind of work you do for NASA, Blue Origin, Rocket Lab. And because Doge is in every federal government department, you or people who work for Doge, and you are the driving force behind it, have an insight into those companies' affairs and those companies' relationships with the federal government.
No, all we do is we review the organization to see if the organization has departments that are no longer relevant. And then are the contracts that are being awarded good value for money? Is there any value for money in a contract? If there isn't, then we make recommendations to the secretary. The secretary can then choose to take those actions or not take those actions. Any action that is as a function of Doge is posted to the Doge website and to the doge.gov handle on the X platform. It's complete transparency. I've not seen any case where, to the best of my knowledge, there's even been an accusation of conflict, because it is completely and utterly transparent. That's it.
And what about the international dimension? Now, let's think about Starlink. Starlink is obviously a very, very good internet service. It's sought after all over the world. It's critical to the front line in Ukraine. It has also had more contracts coming its way, and there is some evidence that companies are allowing access to it because they want to be close to the Trump administration and send the right signal. So Bloomberg broke news today that the South African government is working around the rules on black ownership in order to allow Starlink in, and that is being done on the eve of the visit that President Ramaphosa is going to make to the White House. Do you recognize that as a conflict of interest?
No, of course not. First of all, you should be questioning why are there racist laws in South Africa. That's what you should be attacking. It's improper for there to be racist laws in South Africa. The whole idea with what Nelson Mandela, who was a great man, proposed was that all races should be on an equal footing in South Africa. That's the right thing to do, not to replace one set of racist laws with another set of racist laws, which is utterly wrong and improper. So that's the deal, that all races should be treated equally and there should be no preference given to one or the other. Whereas there are now 140 laws in South Africa that basically give strong preference to if you're a black South African and not otherwise. And so now I'm in this absurd situation where I was born in South Africa but cannot get a license to operate in Starlink because I'm not black.
Well, it looks
Does
like
that
that's
seem
about
right to
it
you?
looks
Does
like
that seem
that
right to you?
looks like that's about to change.
I just asked you a question. Please answer. Does that seem right to you?
Well, those rules were designed to bring
yes or no?
those rules were designed to bring about an era of more economic equality in South Africa, and it looks like the government has found a way around those rules for you.
I asked you a question.
This is your interview. Everyone wants to hear from you.
I asked you a question. Yes or no?
Not for
Racist
me.
laws, yes or no?
Not for me to answer. I have got a question for you about your government work though, and the amount of savings.
Why do you like racist laws?
This is not for me to answer. Come on.
Yes, it is.
Now, you wouldn't be trying to dodge a question.
You have to ask
It's
a question.
difficult for you
Answer
to
my
answer.
question. No, you answer mine.
I'm sure you can have that conversation directly with the South African government. I want to ask you about the total.
I can't believe it. That's not good.
I want to ask you about the total amount. I want to ask you about the total amount that you're planning to save through Doge's work. Before the election, you said it was going to be at least 2 trillion. The number currently on doge.gov is $170 billion. That's a big change. What happened to the 2 trillion?
Well, do you expect it to happen immediately?
Well, is it going to happen? Because Doge is supposed to run till next July.
Are you assuming that on day, within a few months, there's an instant 2 trillion saved?
No, I'm not at all. I'm just asking, is that still your aim then? Is it still your aim to get to 2 trillion?
Have we not made good progress given the amount of time?
So is it still your aim to go from 170 billion to 2 trillion?
The ability of Doge to operate is a function of whether the government, and this includes the Congress, is willing to take our advice. We're not the dictators of the government, we are the advisors. And so we can advise, and the progress we've made thus far, I think, is incredible. The Doge team has done incredible work. The magnitude of the savings is proportionate to the support we get from Congress and from the executive branch of the government in general. So we're not the dictators, we are the advisors. But thus far, for advisors, the Doge team, to their credit, has made incredible progress.
You've talked about $4 billion a day being saved. And I think everyone can agree that combating waste and inefficiency in government is a very good thing. But if you add that up, it's not going to get to 2 trillion over the lifetime of Doge.
I feel you're somewhat trapped in the NPC dialogue tree of a traditional journalist. So it's difficult when I'm conversing with someone who's trapped in the dialogue tree of a conventional journalist, because it's like talking to a computer. Doge is an advisory group. We are doing the best we can as an advisory group. The progress made thus far as an advisory group is excellent. I don't think any advisory group has done better in the history of advisory groups of the government. We do not make the laws, nor do we control the judiciary, nor do we control the executive branch. We are simply advisors. In that context, we are doing very well. Beyond that, we cannot take action because we are not some sort of imperial dictator of the government. There are 3 branches of the government that are to some degree opposed to that level of cost savings. Nonetheless, let's not criticize whether there's 4 trillion and instead look at the fact that 160 billion has been saved and more will be saved too.
How many people will talk about the reality that Elon Musk himself owns more wealth than the bottom 52% of American households? Is that a moral issue? Are we comfortable with that?
Wow.
It's a simple question. And there are some people who say, hey, yeah, that's okay. It's a dog-eat-dog world. Elon's a brilliant guy. He's a hardworking guy. And other billionaires start their own companies. They're really bold and brave. Fine. They deserve it. And if you are trying to get by on $40,000 a year, well, tough crap.
How do you think Elon feels about it?
I don't know him. I've only talked to him many years ago, so I don't know him personally. But I'll tell you what I do think. I think there is a new breed of uber capitalists out there who really believe, and they write about this as well, who really believe that they are superior human beings. You know, I'm telling you, this is the quote-unquote high IQ guys who say, look, we work hard, we're smart, we have started these businesses.
So the victor go the spoils.
It's a dog-eat-dog world. I've made it the way life goes. It's deeper than that. You have some writing on the far right which really diminishes democracy, and that really the smart and the wealthy and the powerful have the right to rule. This is not just, oh, I want a tax break. There's nothing new about that. This is, we have the right. It's the divine, used to be the divine rights of kings.
Or manifest destiny.
Back in the 19th century, the 1850s, I am the king. God made my family king, and sorry you're starving to death, but that's the way life goes. God told me, my family rules.
There's a trend with the ultra wealthy, which is upon their death, a lot of them have decided to give away their money. Some of the most prolific, right? And, or as they get closer to death, they're like, our goal is to give away all our money, which seems to tell me that they think that there is an issue with them having all that money. If they truly felt entitled to it, like, it seems to me it's an admission that they agree with you. They're like, it's kind of wrong that we should just keep all this in our family. We should probably not have it. Now, they're not, it's almost like Benjamin Franklin freeing his slaves on his death. He's like, you know, he's like, this is wrong, but I don't want to leave it until, you know, I might need some shit and my back hurts. But what do I do? So when you see billionaires do that, right, or this elite class that you're talking about, do that, is there a part of you that goes, you're getting it? Why don't you do that maybe 40 years earlier?
No. I mean, these guys are very competitive, very smart, innovative, hardworking. And I really think it's very competitive. And I think they want it all. In Musk's case, he spent $270 million to help Donald Trump get elected president. Do Democrats have billionaires putting money into super PACs? Absolutely. What does that mean in real life? Right now, we're dealing with a bill called the Reconciliation Bill. It's a fancy Washington term for a very big bill, which will have a lot of stuff in it. In any case, if a Republican stands up and says, you know what, in the House of Representatives, I don't like this bill because, you know, it's giving tax breaks to very wealthy people and it's going to cut Medicaid and cut nutrition programs. It's a bad bill. What do you think happens the day after that Republican stands up and says he opposes it?
Those super PACs organize and they primary out those politicians.
Exactly.
And how effective is that?
It is enormously effective. If you have, right now you're a Republican. You got to,
it's going to go viral.
All right. So you have two elements. Trump is enormously popular within the Republican base.
Yeah.
Elon Musk has unlimited sums of money, right? Double whammy. So it is very hard for any Republican
to stand up and authentically speak their mind.
There's a vast difference between an AI native startup and an old school company trying to retro.
Yeah.
And there's also a difference between a
company premised on AI versus just helped by it.
And a founder-led AI premise company. I mean, the advantages that you have and Zuckerberg has, Elon has, as a visionary leader, able to say, no, I know this is the way we used to do it. We're changing it. We're going this way now because it's the right way to go. It's impossible for a large scale public company in the defense industry to make any kind of shifts like that.
Well, Zuck had an AI research lab of significant size back when all this stuff was considered crazy. So when they opened up their AI research lab where they were doing integrated AI and robotics, I mean, we're talking about like 2014, 2015, they were doing this. And a lot of people, including in the public markets, saw it as a folly. They saw it as Mark working on this ridiculous thing, burning money, totally a waste of time. These founder-led companies can make bets that a hired executive would never make. You would never have a hired CEO from the outside who's also thinking about what his next job is going to be. He's not going to say, you know what I think I'm going to do? I'm going to burn billions of dollars on this technology that everyone thinks is a total waste of time, and I'm going to be punished for it quarter after quarter. And eventually, someday, it's going to come to bear and everyone's going to say I'm right, because none of those guys are usually even around long enough to see the fruits of that labor. And even if they were, there's probably safer bets they could make. And yeah, founder-led companies can afford to do that. They can afford to say, you know what? I'm going to do it anyway, because this is my company and I care more about it than anybody. And I'm going to do the right thing for it in the long run. It's a powerful thing.
It is powerful, especially when the founder is so technically literate and has his teams revere him, as they do for Zuck, as they do for Elon and others.
Well, you attract people who will. I think that's true. If they didn't believe in the company, they probably wouldn't have joined. And if they didn't like what they see, they probably won't stay. If you're a founder-led company, you're going to attract people to a certain extent, reflect the vision of the founder. Because you want to attract people who believe in that vision, and then equally important, repel people who do not. Like,
yes, equally important.
Well, you saw that ad campaign we did, "Don't work at Anduril." Yeah. Then the whole point was, hey, here it's we work hard. This is a real job. You're going to be in the shit.
This is 8-hour work weeks, guys.
And we have a lot of people coming in and saying, like, from the outside, oh, this is a bizarre campaign. This seems like, why would you do a campaign about how hard it is to work at Anduril? And the point is, guys, this is going to attract exactly the right type of person. And most importantly, repel anyone who wouldn't enjoy working here once they get here. And by the way, our applications went up 3x the week after that campaign. And they're all exactly the type of people we want.
That's beautiful. So one of the challenges a company has as it matures is deciding whether to go public or not. And I don't want to get into whether Anduril is going public or not, but eventually my guess is yes. You've got Elon saying, I will never take SpaceX public, right? I don't want to have shareholders telling me whether I can spend money to go to Mars.
Sure.
Right. And I don't want to disclose all of my secrets in a 10Q and so forth. Then you've got folks like Bezos. I've known Jeff for 45 years almost. And, Jeff famously says, don't invest in Amazon if you're looking for me to maximize near-term returns or shareholder. It's like, I'm going to build. How do you balance the benefits of going public so you can enjoy these large contracts at the same time of the agility that you've survived and you've thrived in?
So I've never run a publicly traded company.
Now you have a CEO.
We do. So our CEO is Brian Schimpf.
And you've done he's an amazing individual.
He is. And I think we're totally agreed. Everyone's in alignment on this. When we become a public company, we have to keep doing what we've done in the private markets. It's really no different than hiring. We need to attract people who believe in our vision and repel people who don't believe in our vision. A lot of people imagine that if Anduril goes public, we'll become like other public defense companies because the less risk, not willing to invest in the future, not paying out dividends rather than investing in R&D.
Maximizing quarterly returns.
But that doesn't have to necessarily be the case. Even when you transition to the public markets, you can take action through your communications, through your filings, through your decisions that scare away people who want you to be like a traditional company. You want to attract investors who believe in your vision of the world. And if that's your whole investor base, they're not going to force you to be something different. I think Elon's other company, Tesla, is actually probably the strongest example here. Tesla has an extremely high price to earnings ratio because their investors believe that they are going to win across the board on a multi-decade timescale. They think they're going to win at robotics, they're going to win at energy, they're going to win at and I think they have a very good shot at winning on all or most of those items. You could ask yourself, they're a publicly traded company. Why aren't they like one of the more traditional automotive companies? Why weren't they forced to be more like a traditional company? And the answer is simple, because they've cultivated an investor base that believes in what Tesla is, and they've repelled everybody else. Many of the people they've repelled are now shorting Tesla because they don't believe in it. I think it's the same way for us. We're going to need to attract people who believe in what we are, repel everybody else. And if we ever start getting enough of an investor base that is pressuring us to do the wrong thing, I'm going to need to go in the press and say some crazy shit to scare them all away, because I don't want those guys voting at my I don't want them picking my board members. I want all the Anduril haters and people who want Anduril to be what a defense company used to be. I want them to be running for the hills.
I think you've had Elon Musk on this show a few times, and it's neat to see what he's been able to accomplish with SpaceX. I met him in 2003. This is the very beginning of his journey. I was on a planning committee for a conference, American Astronautical Society, and we were doing a conference in Houston with a focus on a commercial space flight. So this is at the dawn of the idea. At the time, I was working at Lockheed Martin. We had Elon Musk come in and talk to us about this crazy idea, SpaceX, that he had. Lockheed Martin corporate contacted me and asked me, hey, we know you're going to be interfacing with this guy, and so we want you to write up a profile on him after the conference and tell us what you think. And so I went to the conference and got a chance to watch a number of people come in, talk about great ideas. Elon came and gave his talk and so forth. After the conference was over, I wrote up a profile and submitted it to Lockheed Corporate. I said, I think this guy is going to do everything he said he's going to do. I think Lockheed Martin should consider buying his company at some point in time. Fortunately, they didn't, right? Because I think if they did, they would have ruined the magic, if you will.
You need it in his control. He's got some pretty bizarre ideas that just watching them catch that rocket, you're like, what?
That's nuts. That is
So
absolutely nuts, right? My
So
brain
nuts.
looks at that and goes, no.
Right. It looks like, I mean, that's why the kooks on the internet think it's fake. Because it almost looks fake. Like, how? It's such a leap above anything that's ever been done before.
Yeah. Could you imagine the design meeting? And I'm sure it was probably Elon that said this. Yeah, I want to catch a 20-story building. I can see all the engineers. Is he serious?
Right, exactly. Because everybody thought they just had to deteriorate and fall to Earth, you know, when you're shooting the rocket up in the sky, and then you plan it so they fall into the ocean. Like, okay.
I do think that, I don't know if you've ever met Gwen Shotwell. I think Gwen Shotwell is kind of like his secret weapon, right? So, in you know, Elon Musk strikes me as one of those guys that's like an idea generator. All this great stuff's coming out at the speed of light, if you will, and he's coming up with all these different ideas. But you got to have somebody who can take all that chaos and pull out the important tidbits and then put them into action, if you will. And so I think Gwen is kind of his secret weapon. She helps take all of that chaos and then starts to put it into actionable steps to help
imagine as technology increases, if you have someone with that sort of an innovative mind and someone like Gwen who can put it together as all these new ideas come to fruition, you could imagine where we're going to be with this stuff.
Just to kind of put that in context, in my mind, SpaceX is an example of mastering the art of getting to space, right? SpaceX is conquering that climbing against the gravity well, as opposed to moving through space. That therein lies a great opportunity to kind of re-highlight that perennial difference, the challenge between the two, right?
If you enjoyed today's video on inner vision, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments below.